Flaws.cloud. We walked through the last level. We found a bucket with the list bucket result permission granted to everyone. Now, the author Scott gives us a hint. We need to sign up for an AWS account. And I'm just not going to walk you guys through that because it's not interesting to me. If we read through the hints, he sees that we need an AWS key. So what we went over before, like accessing our bucket, AWS provides an endpoint, but there's also the CLI, the AWS CLI, the command line, which you'll need to install. And on Mac, you can probably write brew install AWS. So, where are we? We get a list of commands. So we have CP, we have ls, move, MB, which I don't even know what this does. Oh, it makes a bucket. Make bucket. Okay, that makes sense. So let's suppose, we want to check and see if this bucket has the list bucket result options turned on. So we see S3, we have ls, then S3 URI. We'll come on over to the command line, do AWS -- profile. I call my normal profile sudo. If you configure the default credentials, you won't have to do the -- profile, whatever your profile name is. So after we say what profile we want to use, we want to say the service we use. So we'll do S3. The operation we want to do ls, and the bucket we want to work on. So we do S3 : // and we have to pass in our bucket name, and we know from the last level that the bucket name corresponds to the domain name on the bucket. So we'll do this. We gotta get out the HTTP. Boom, boom, boom. Backspace, 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 backspace. Press enter. We get all of our stuff. So we can come on over to robots.txt. We'll see if we can view this file. /robots.txt. So we disallow. He disallows the entire, pretty much everything. He doesn't want this level to be indexed by search engines because it'll probably give away everything. So now we see we have secrets. We'll come on over to the secret file, see if we can view that. All right, so we found the secret file. So basically what this is saying is that, he gives an explanation. It's pretty similar to the last one, only this time instead of the bucket being accessible by the internet, it's accessible through the command line, and we'll actually test this right now. So before we viewed the list bucket result through an XML file by viewing it at an S3 endpoint. So we'll do HTTPS : / we'll just prove that this bucket is not available. So I got to do .s3 .s3 I'm taking for granted that this bucket is in the same location as the other one. Amazon AWS.com. Advanced. Continue. Oops, I left this off. I left an L off. All right, accept continue. So we have access denied, right? So we can configure our permissions, which Scott goes over in this, so that our list bucket result is either available to anyone or, any authenticated AWS account. And as he says, this permission is no longer relevant. You can't really set this permission in the S3 console. So we have that, and I don't want this video to be so short, so I guess I will go on to level 3. So we'll try this. We will try both viewing level 3 from the traditional S3 endpoint. So I'll come on over here. I'll X this out. And guys, if this is your first time doing a CTF. It might look easy when I'm doing it, but I've already played this like 3 times and I took notes and everything. You definitely want to take notes and try again. And, you know, maybe walk through it with Scott's hints or this video. Forget about it and then come back to it just to get those reflexes up. So we come on over to level 3. I have to get rid of this slash. Yep. All right. So exhibitors can continue. So this bucket has the list bucket results, you know, showing. You see we have some git commits, git head, git config, git description, git hooks, blah, blah, blah. We'll keep scrolling. We have objects. I think these are commit hashes. Then we also have our regular hint files. So we'll do this. We'll do AWS -- profile, my profile, S3 ls, S3 : / I hate how it copies the HTTP from me when I'm in Firefox. We'll list this. So we have .git. All right, so if you don't know what git is, it's a way for controlling our code. So it's just a way, if we want to test out a new feature, we'll open up what's called a git branch, and then we'll, you know, combine our git branches together. So it's like if you have a rough draft for something you're writing, you'll like copy the original draft, then you'll make a copy of another one, work on the copy, then take the copy and put it back into the old copy. Git's really cool. It's definitely an essential skill for developers to have. We could download the Git files one by one, but instead we're going to make use of the AWS CP command, which stands for copy. So copy is a local file or S3 object to another locally or an S3. So we can copy from local to bucket or bucket to bucket or bucket to local. So we need to do, and we're going to need to do, if we want to copy everything in the bucket, we need to pass in the recursive flag. If not, we'll just copy one item. So let's do this. We'll do AWS -- profile sudo S3 CP. We'll copy this. Oops, actually, we'll do this. S3 CP -- recursive. The bucket, we want to copy it to a directory, so we're going to call this directory Flaws3. Let's see if this works. Yep, so we copied everything into a Flaws3 directory. Clear. We'll enter the Flaws3 directory. ls. Do ls-la. We should have a .git folder. We can look at the hints from here, whatever. Boom, boom, boom. So we can do git branch to check out our branches. We can do git log to check out our commits. So commits are all given a hash. We can do, so there's another command called git diff where we can see the difference between two commits. So we'll do git diff. So we see he accidentally added something he shouldn't have to. So what happened was he probably added it in the first commit and he removed it with the second commit. So we'll do this, boom. Just copy the hashes. Boom. So we see we have the access key.txt files, and he gives us the access keys. So I've already configured the access keys on my computer, and I don't want to open up my creds file because I have all my keys in there, and I just don't want to. I really don't feel like walking you guys through that. It's just boring. But basically, you'd make a new profile. Mine's called Flaws3. Or Flaws, I forget. And you just set the access key and the secret access key. Occasionally, for some services, you'll have to, have tokens. But whatever. Configure your access key, and we're going to poke around somewhere. So the S3 API is used for interacting with specific buckets. But we also have groups of buckets. I need to come here. I'm going to cough. You can come to the full, excuse me, we can come to the full S3 docs, and we can see that all of the Amazon services, and this is where you kind of realize what Bezos is just printing money, because there are so many services and you'll never understand all of them. EC2 is a popular one. IMA, that's for dealing with credentials. IoT, Internet of Things. Lambda, serverless code. Lightsail, that's like EC2 but lighter. We want to come to S3. So we have S3. We have the S3 API. Doesn't really give a description, but it's basically for like, rather than, adding things to buckets or copying buckets or moving buckets, the S3 API is for controlling buckets. So you might set access credentials, you might make backups, you might encrypt them, you might delete objects, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you can copy objects, create buckets in the S3. The S3 command set, but the S3 API command set is a little more verbose. You can put means change. So you can, change the logging configuration on your bucket. You can change, whatever. We also have the list buckets command, which returns a list of all buckets owned by the user. Well, that's convenient. To use this operation, the access keys must have the list all my buckets permission. Well, let's test this out. So do AWS -- profile flaws. I hope that's the right one. S3 API list buckets. Oops. List. This is the most useless stack trace. Boom! We get our buckets. Okay. We see we got, Flaws.logs. That's an interesting bucket. Probably poke around there eventually. I don't think I've ever seen this bucket. Config bucket. I don't know. These are probably out of scope for the pen test. So don't look at his crap. We're on level 3, but we know we want to get to level 4. What do we know about the bucket name? The bucket name corresponds to the URL. This is the owner of the bucket. Probably configured a separate account. And then we can come here. We can Command C. We'll come on over. And then level 3, we'll go to level 4. Lesson learned. And this is probably the most important. This is the one I was talking about with Instagram earlier. Instagram didn't pay this guy well. He complains about it. I think in this write-up. I read this so long ago. Yeah, he complains. Yeah. Yeah, this guy's like pretty mad. When did he do this? 2015. So I don't know if Instagram was owned by Facebook by then. But he's like, what the, I found all this, and then, Instagram didn't pay him, or Meta or whoever. But this is definitely a wicked cool read up. Probably should read this again. I haven't read it in a while. I'll leave it up for later. BOS based rootkits. All right, I'm getting distracted now. But whatever. So this is a common theme in AWS or cloud pen testing in general. Basically, the game is you find an opening. You hope there's some keys in there, some credentials to some service. You use those credentials to either steal data, make a backdoor, or steal more data. So if I come on over to Mitra attack framework, let me see if I can get an image. Boom. So where is it? Where's privilege escalation? Okay, so privilege escalation. So yeah, you will escalate your privileges. So you'll have public access, and then you'll escalate your privileges by finding some sort of API key or something. With the API key, you can persist. SparkFlow does this in How to Hack Like a Ghost with Lambda. You can escalate your privileges further by moving laterally across the cloud network, or you can just steal whatever data you have with those S3 permissions. So we will X out of that. Is there anything else that I need to talk about? So he talks about rolling keys. So eventually, there's a new thing in information security called assumed breach, where it's not am I going to get hacked? It's when am I going to get hacked? And you want to react to that hack. So we know we have a bad actor in our network, or at some point we'll have a bad actor in our network. We know they have these keys. So what they'll do is they'll just expire the keys, and now they're useless for an attacker. A lot of people will use, I think Scott has an article about this on his site, Summit Route, where they're called canaries. So basically, you'll set up a set of keys, and those keys are used for nothing. They're just not good. No normal developer would use the canary. So as soon as the canary gets activated, it's a trap. The attacker gives themselves away. But that is it for this episode. I'm glad you guys watched. Hopefully you learned something. Definitely wait a little while and play this again on your own. We'll move on to the other episodes later. But thank you again.